Hello people of the internet, this is Shaky Jake, and I really need a catchphrase. You are watching Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, with the Restored Content Modification version 1.8.5 installed. I have been wanting to say that for an absolutely long time now, and I'm finally glad that I can actually say that, because I've been wanting to get this started for a number of weeks, and it's taken me a while because I had to compile some mods together. I had to download some mods, then I had to make sure they were compatible, then I had to make sure they worked, etc, etc. Now, for those of you who are familiar with my channel, you will know that I spent most of last year, or the last 10 months or so, maybe 11 months, playing through the first Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic game. And I had a lot of fun doing that. And I always intended to play the sequel, because the sequel is, alongside the first game, one of my favourite games ever developed. They're both fantastic for very different reasons, but they're both fantastic games. So, whilst we're here, I'm going to just double check the options to make sure we're okay. I'm going to keep it on difficult for the moment, because that's the highest difficulty level that you can have in the sequel. There's no impossible difficulty here like there was in the first game, and that's all fine. Feedback, again, I'm happy with all of that. I'm happy with auto pause. Graphics, I'm just going to quickly show you something whilst I'm here. Screen resolution, because of the update that happened with this game around 2015, I believe. This game, unlike the first one, supports much higher resolutions than the first game. So I can actually play Knights of the Old Republic 2 with my monitor's resolution of 1920 by 1200 pixels, which is fantastic. And, you know, I'd love a update for the first game as well, so that it is modernised in the same way this game is, but unfortunately that's not the case. Sound, I've already messed around with this, so hopefully it is okay. And we might as well start a new game, so let's get straight to it. Now, very much like the first game, you have a choice of two genders, male and female respectively, and a choice of three classes spread between those two genders. So we've got the male Jedi Consular, the male Jedi Sentinel, the male Jedi Guardian, the female Jedi Guardian, the female Jedi Sentinel, and the female Jedi Consular. Now, unlike the first Knights of the Old Republic game, where I pretty much play as male because I find it hard to play that game as a woman for various reasons, I can go either way with the sequel, and the game works perfectly fine with both genders. And I'm sure this choice is going to disappoint some of my viewers out there, but I'm still going to play as male for this particular playthrough. And there's a couple of reasons why I'm doing that. But the character I've envisioned for this playthrough, I find it easier as a male than a female for it. So that's why I'm going to play as a male. And, oh look, there's the David Beckham head. For those of you who know who David Beckham is, yep, that's the head, that's pretty much him. And there is a female head, I've got to find it now. Just before I get into this, there's a female head that looks a little bit like Michael Jackson. Let me just see if I can find that head. It's none of these. It's none of these. Where is it? Here we go. The closest you'll ever get to Michael Jackson in the Star Wars universe. Okay, just thought I'd throw that out there. And then here's the David Beckham head. Yeah, pretty much. Again, I have some weird ways of saying certain heads look similar to real life people. We are going to play as my favourite Jedi class, which I skipped over in the first game because I was an idiot, but we're going to play as the male Jedi Consular. And there's a number of reasons why I'm doing that, and I think if we go back, it actually does say recommended for advanced players only. I actually disagree with that for a number of reasons. I actually think you can play this class with no problems whatsoever, and in some cases it's actually easier to play as this class than some of the other classes, at least in my personal view. So we're going to go for a custom character, because if you go for a crit character you lose a lot of customization options. And the head we're going to go for, and I think this particular head is not the one I'm going for, by the way. This particular head was a modified one in the Restored Content mod. I don't remember it ever being in the vanilla game. So we're going to go for this head. The only bearded head, I believe, if I just double check. Oh, and here's Samwise Gamgee from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I think the only ginger in the entire game. Yeah, I think... Oh, okay, there's one other bearded person. And then the one moustached person, okay. Oh, this was the first head I ever selected when I played the game in 2005. And then a goatee. Okay, so there's more facial hair heads in the second game than there is in the first, which is nice. So, oh, and goatee here again. You know what? Forget what I said earlier. There's plenty of facial hair heads in this game. So, we're going to go for this guy, because this guy has the best, in my view at least, the best head in the game. And he also looks a bit like me, because I also have a beard, so I'm a little bit biased there. Attributes. So, the attributes of your character apply bonuses or penalties to everything from combat to skill checks to force powers. Okay, so not a problem. Now, the last time I did this with Knights of the Old Republic 1, I screwed this description up. I basically said all even numbers basically make it so that your points go up, and then the odd numbers don't, and I pretty much flipped them. So let's say I was on 8, for example. I said 8's an odd number, and it clearly isn't. 8 is an even number. So let's not screw that up this time. So I have a particular character in mind for this game, and I want to try something new that I personally haven't experienced. It's pretty common among Knights of the Old Republic fans to do this kind of playthrough, but I've never personally done it, and that is not to use a lightsaber whatsoever. I'm only going to allow myself to use guns and swords. Never going to touch a lightsaber with my particular character. I'll allow my party members to use lightsabers, no problem, but I personally am not going to use a lightsaber in this entire game. And if I backtrack on that, feel free to slate me in the comment section, because I would be the worst person if I backtracked on this. So, because we're going for a gunslinger, what I'm going to do first is, at the moment, all of our attributes are -1. We don't want that. So let's put everything to 10, because every time you go up to the next even number, the penalties change. So, because we're a gunslinger, we're going to want dexterity up quite significantly, because dexterity measures agility and reflexes, and it also affects ranged attacks. So let's put this up to at least +14, so that gives us +2. And again, if you go any higher than this, it starts taking more points off, so we don't want to do that. Constitution is our health. I'm going to leave that for a moment. Intelligence, I want that at 14, definitely, so I can get a couple more skill points. We're a Jedi Consular, so we do want Wisdom up, and we do want Charisma up, so we can negate any force powers that aren't on our side, whatever side we decide to be. And yeah, we can spend 2 more points elsewhere, and I'm trying to debate whether to put it into strength or into constitution. I think I'm going to go for constitution for once, because I never normally touch that. But I'm going to make an exception, because we're not going to really dabble with strength like I normally would in this game, and I'm presumably going to regret that at some point. But again, we're going to pretty much focus entirely on dexterity for the vast majority of the game. And yeah, so skills, again, unlike the first game, skills are very important in this one. Literally every skill, with the exception of stealth still, because I never really like stealth. All the skills in this game are very important, and it actually makes the Jedi Sentinel class a very viable class to go with. Which is a shame, because I should have really played as Jedi Sentinel in this game and not the first one, but whatever. So, if a class is in yellow, this means we only have to spend 1 point on it. If it's a class that isn't in yellow, we have to spend 2. Now, we can get certain feats that negate this, and we will probably do that to make things a bit easier, but for now, let's see what the recommended gives. Okay, literally 4 in everything. Let's take that away for a moment. And yes, I know there's other stuff I want to talk about to do with this game, such as my memories of when I first bought the game and the whole cut content controversy behind this game. But I want to talk about that in a moment once I've got through everything. So, we want... Oh, and also it tells you what the related attribute is. So, treat injury. Yeah, we'll go with that. Repair we're definitely going to want for later on in the game. Persuade we're going to want. You know what? Let's just do what the game suggested. Fine. That's absolutely fine. Fine. So, feats. Again, unlike the first game, this game is very generous with how many feats you get. You actually get all of the attacking feats from the very first level, which is very nice. And we also get a couple of unique feats as well, like War Veteran and Jedi Sense. At least, no, Jedi Sense isn't unique, is it? Okay, War Veteran is unique. Now, that's one of the reasons why I personally find this game more interesting than the first one, because you are a War Veteran in this game. You used to be a Jedi Knight, or a Jedi, and then you got exiled by the Jedi Order, and I want to roleplay as a character who is legitimately bitter at the Jedi Order, literally hates them. I really want to play as that character and get into their head, even if it's the kind of stuff I wouldn't personally say, because I want to see how that goes down. But I don't want to play somebody who hates the Jedi to the point where they really want to kill them, at least eventually. So, War Veteran, let's see. We can pick one feat. I'm not going to use any additional feats in this game, as in I'm not using any additional feat mods like I did in the first game, because I found that made it a bit too easy. What's the recommended feat? Dueling. Okay, so it's recommending one-handedness. I'm not going to allow that because I intend to eventually go to two-weapon fighting, but I don't want to do that just yet. Again, these are the class skills. We are actually going to start, I think, unless if there's anything else. I mean, I'm tempted by the attack 1+ bonus for blaster pistols, but we're not going to do that just yet. I am going to use the demolitions class skill so I can get some points in that, because I will need it at the beginning of the game. Okay. And I do have a name for my character. I just need to look at how I spelt it the last time I used it. And this is the name I've been using for quite a while. And that is Joran Corel. Joran Corel. It's a name that I sort of came up with. There is an NPC in this game that is actually named Joran, but I came up with the surname myself. So it's a sort of Star Wars-ish. Oh my god, I can't even say Star Wars-ish. There we go. Star Wars-ish name. So we're going to stick with that. I have been rambling for almost 15 minutes now, so let's get on with it, shall we? And then we can get into the interesting stuff after the cutscene. Oh wow, I must have had a lot to drink last night. Why am I seeing blue? Why is everything so blue? I think my eyesight's gone. Oh, Jesus. Everything's blue. Oh, that's why I'm T3M4.
The Ebon Hawk is adrift in space after a terrible battle. Most of its crew are dead or dying.
How convenient.
You lie in the medical room in critical condition. You won't survive long without medical attention.
I'm sure it's fine.
The hyperdrive is damaged. Main power must be restored in order to bring the engines online and dock with the nearby Paragus mining station for much needed repairs.
Can we have some positivity,
Your
please?
fate and that of the Ebon Hawk depend upon T3M4, a lone astromech droid. Return to this location at any time to skip the prologue.
Okay, so unlike the first game, Obsidian Entertainment gave you the choice of whether you actually want to skip it. I never do this, because even though the prologue is pretty dull every time you start a new game, I think it allows you more options with regards to how much you pick up and how much experience you get. So we're going to continue.
Press WAS.
And I wonder where this voice is coming from, because if this is how T3 hears things, then that explains a lot. And yeah, I am going to talk over this because it's literally really obvious.
This is the galaxy map. It shows you are near Paragus, a mining colony. When the hyperdrive is fixed, you can use the galaxy map to choose a destination planet.
Okay, so we're near Paragus, and I do like how the galaxy map appears in this game. It looks a lot nicer to me personally than in the first game. So, this is the Ebon Hawk, and we can see a number of mods taking place already. It's not entirely clear at the moment, but T3M4 has been reskinned to look a bit more like R2-D2, which is a mod I couldn't resist, even though it doesn't make too much sense, because he looks a lot nicer than he normally does in this game, as in normally he looks a lot more beat up. But anyway, we're wasting time because I might die if T3 doesn't help me, even though we're not timed. So we can view our quests again. Let's have a look at what we need to do. So the Ebon Hawk is heavily damaged, we do not know why, and adrift in a dangerous asteroid field. Find the hyperdrive and fix it to restore primary power so that you can dock with the Paragus mining station for repairs. Not a problem. Joan Corral, whose name I still can't decide how I'm pronouncing yet, is lying in the medbay in critical condition. For reasons we do not know why. You can use a med pack to stabilise his vitals. Interesting way of putting it, game. To fully revive Joan will require the... Okay, there's a missing... That doesn't make sense. You need like a comma here at least, or somewhere, I don't know. Yeah, that sentence needs some work. To fully revive Joan, he will require the medical facilities at the Paragus mining station. Not a problem, and we have no completed quests yet. So, we can go in different rooms and we can open stuff. If you've played the first game, this is incredibly straightforward. So we need to slice the system and open this door. And yes, I am talking over the pretty lady's voice because she's telling us stuff we already know. If you've played any RPG, it's all common sense. So there are certain doors we cannot open.
Noise coming from the other side of the door to this storage compartment, but the door is sealed shut. It cannot be opened from the outside.
A banging noise, eh? That sounds interesting. So we have some repair parts here, which is nice. Another door that we can't open.
And cannot be opened.
And then interestingly, we have this old woman just lying here. I'm going to assume she's dead. Let's pick her up. And she has a locker key. How interesting.
This old woman appears to be dead. There is a key card on the body that looks like it opens a locker somewhere.
Now, I find it interesting how the Ebon Hawk has this female voice, because I'm going to assume it's either T3's inner voice or it's the Ebon Hawk's emergency voice. I don't know which. So, we are going to try and open this up.
Your security skill is too low to open this footlocker. However...
Okay, we'll bash it open then. Let's do this. Now, this is a huge change from the first game, because when you bash stuff in the sequel, you have a chance of breaking items. So security is actually a really useful skill to have in the second game, unlike in the first game. And yep, there we go, we got 2 broken items.
Bashing or blowing open a container will break some
And yes, I am
items
skipping
in
all
the
this
container.
because it's very dull to listen to.
Broken items. They can be turned into useful
Can I open
components
this
at a
door?
workbench.
Yes, I can. Wonderful. And yes, I am taking my time with this because I can.
If you need help exploring the Ebon Hawk,
I do not need help.
this blast door is magnetically sealed and cannot be opened.
Not a problem, we're just exploring at the moment, so let's open this door.
This
Oh
is
look,
the cargo hold.
we have company, hello.
Talking to other characters is much like using the computer console in the cockpit. Scroll through your response options or move the mouse cursor, and then click to select a response. Note that some responses may
Are you okay there, little droid? You seem to be in a bit of a state.
Furthermore, certain skills, powers, and attributes may modify what choices you have, or how successful you are with those choices.
Okay, RPG logic as always. So this is free CFD. I wonder what part he's going to play in this game.
CFD is malfunctioning. You can fix him by using a part. Luckily, you have already found one. If you repair 3 CFD, he can join your party and assist you in repairing the ship.
That would be marvellous. I really want this droid for the rest of the game. That would be fantastic. Let's fix him.
Success! You have fixed 3 CFD. Now he will join your party.
Yay! He looks exactly like me too, so, you know. T3 always needed a friend. Very much like him. Deet deet! Tree deet! Yeah, I can't do the R2-D2 noise. So, there we go. We got free CFD.
CFD is now a member of your party. To change which party member you control,
And he's in a much
click on the
healthier state than we are.
Portraits tab.
So we
Later,
need to
when you have
open some
more
stuff up.
companions, you can add and remove party members. You use the key.
I do wish you could actually disable this voice because it does make talking much harder. So let's equip a few things now that we have them. We still do not have a weapon, but I am going to take this field survival pistol off my new friend here.
We found to open the locker. The impact armor from this locker can be equipped on the equip screen. To
So yeah,
open the
this
equip
part of the
screen,
game is
if you
very
encounter
dull,
a
unlike
difficult
how the
block
first
on
game
keyboard
started,
or door,
but I always like
you
to
can
play
use
through it
the
just
lower
to go
difficulty
through everything.
setting in order to open this
Okay,
lock.
here's a
Access the
slightly
options screen
stupid
and
part
select
of this
gameplay.
game compared to the
Then
first
change
one.
difficulty setting
The
from
game
difficulty
penalises
to
you
normal.
in the tutorial for playing on the hardest difficulty, to the point where you can't open certain things or you can't disable certain mines. So I'm going to just briefly turn the difficulty down and see if I can still open it.
The lock on this metal box is too difficult.
Okay, let's try and put it on easy. Will that work?
You can use one of the security tunnelers you found. The lock on
No!
this
Okay, so we have to use the security tunneler. Fine. See, this is what I mean. The game penalises you. So let's put that back up to difficult. I will have to turn it down again at some point during this because it's a bit bizarre how this game's programmed at points. And then we're introduced to combat here as a nice little
Sensor
side
droids
option.
emerged from this box when you opened it. These droids will make for excellent target practice. Use the weapon from this container to attack the droids.
Okay, now I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to use the shock arm because the droid shock arm is incredibly overpowered.
On the equip screen. To open the equip screen, click on the blaster icon in the top right area. Good work defeating the sensor droids.
Oh yeah, free CFD probably could do with having a weapon, to be honest, now that I think about it. Sorry.
Combat training, open the metal
He
box
probably would have
again,
helped out if
and
he had a
more
weapon.
sensor droids
Right
will
then,
appear.
so where should we go next? Let's have a look, shall we? I suppose we should...
This lift will take you to the outer
Yeah,
hull of
game,
the Ebon
I would
Hall,
like to explore
where
the
you will
Ebon
find
Hall.
many parts and mines to use for accessing and repairing the hyperdrive. Use the lift controls to go up.
Yes, that's normally how a lift works. So let's open up the medical bay and let's go and heal
This is the
Jaren
medical room.
because he needs healing desperately before he dies, even though we're not timed.
You have found med packs. You can use one to stabilize the condition of the human lying on the bed.
Yes, the human lying on the bed. Free CFD, would you mind moving out of the way? Thank you. So let's heal you, shall
The
we?
med pack can stabilize your condition.
and T3 has hopeful music behind him. Let's use a med pack on him.
Success. You are stabilized. To recover fully, you will require the medical facilities at the Paragus mining station, but you are not in any danger of dying from your wounds right now.
Excellent. I have muted the game's soundtrack here because I want to talk about a few things that are much more important than seeing me play through the prologue, which is a section I always play through in every new game, but you're not missing much because it's literally just teaching you the controls and teaching you how to play the game. It's easily skippable, but as I said, I always play through it because I feel like that gives me the most benefit later on. And just a quick thing here, the cinematography for this shot is absolutely fantastic. Obsidian did a really good job establishing certain shots and certain scenes, and with some of the graphics mods I've downloaded, it looks even nicer than it originally did. So anyone who has played Knights of the Old Republic 2 will know about its history. They will know that it was a game that was rush released. They will know it was a game that was incomplete upon its original release because LucasArts wanted Obsidian to release it in time for Christmas and release it in time for the holiday sales and all that kind of stuff. And it really shows when you buy the game and not install the Restored Content Modification. The game's plot doesn't make sense. Character motivations don't make sense. There are loads of plot holes. There's various errors within the game's script. And there's also bugs that can potentially damage your game to the point where certain quests won't complete properly or you can't complete them. Various things like that. So when I bought the game in 2005, I was 12 years old, approaching 13 years old, and it was in early 2005. I was incredibly hyped for Knights of the Old Republic 2 because I loved the first game so much and had played it so much. And any magazine at the time that I could get my hands on that talked about this game, I literally bought to read about just this game alone. But when I bought the game, it was fun. Don't get me wrong, it was incredibly fun. But the more I played it towards the end of the game, the less it made sense. And it felt wrong to the point where it felt like something was missing. And then information about how there was loads of cut content came about on the internet at the time, and it made more sense to me, as in, yes, this game was incomplete, it doesn't make sense. And the more I read about this content, the more my view on this game became more sympathetic. I didn't hate the game, do not get me wrong, I didn't think this was a terrible game whatsoever. I just thought it was an incredibly flawed game and that it didn't resonate as well as the first game did. However, now that the cut content has mostly been restored, I believe about 99% of the content has been restored in some way or another, maybe 90% if we're being a bit more harsh. Now that the cut content has mostly been restored, the game is a lot more fluid, it makes a lot more sense, it plays a lot better, there's less bugs, there's various things that make this game a lot closer to Obsidian's original vision than what they unfortunately had to release in 2005. And 2004, I think, for certain places. But it really shows how much time and effort Obsidian went into to try and make this game as fantastic as they could, but unfortunately LucasArts did not allow them to do so. And it's a real shame because this game, with the Restored Content Modification, is much better than the first game. I believe, personally. I think it's a much better game. If you take it from the point of view of when it was originally released without the content and the rush release version, it's worse than the first game. But with this mod, I personally believe this is a much better game. So, I can't remember when I first installed the Restored Content Modification. I knew it was an earlier version, but I know I installed it a couple of years ago. I think it was around the early 2010s. I want to say 2011 or 2012, but I could be wrong, and it might have been even earlier than that. But it's a must if you get this game. And then there's a couple of other mods I've decided to install on top of this. One is Party Swap, which is a mod I've never tried before, but it essentially allows you to have both Handmaiden and Disciple in your party, as opposed to just having one or the other depending on what sex your character is. And then another mod which allows you to pick Mirror or Hanha on Nar Shaddaa instead of how light-sided or dark-sided you are deciding that choice. So those are the three main mods: the Restored Content Modification, Party Swap, and Mirror and Hanha. Those are the three most important mods. Everything else is primarily graphics based and to try and improve the resolution of certain textures and certain planets, certain things, etc. There's a couple of gameplay changes I've made as well, but nothing too extensive other than the Restored Content Modification, Party Swap, and the choice of Mirror and Hanha and Nar Shaddaa instead of your alignment deciding it for you. But I am looking forward to playing through this game. Again, it's one of my favourite games ever made. It's a game that I wish could have spent more time in the development process instead of being rush released. And alongside with Star Wars Battlefront 2, 2005 was one of the last really good years for LucasArts games, I personally feel. So that's really about it. I am going to be talking a lot more about Knights of the Old Republic 2 and its development cycle as the game continues. And here there's a little bug that always occurs in Knights of the Old Republic 2 where you don't just automatically heal, you have to click on the party member's portrait. I'm not quite sure why that bug comes up, but occasionally it happens. But yeah, this game is incredible. I absolutely love it, and I am looking forward to playing it again. There are some limitations with this game, and I will be talking about them in the future, but for now, thank you very much, and I'll get you back to the main audio. I've never skipped the prologue in the entire time I've played this game, so now we're actually done with everything. We have finished everything completely, so what I'm going to do now is head back to the cockpit and tell the Ebon Hawk we need to go to the Paragus mining facility.
To the Paragus mining station.
Or the Paragus mining station.
Left-click on the Paragus planet to select it, and then left-click on the travel button.
Okay, so that's one more space hangover I didn't want to have to deal with. We must have been partying for quite a long time last night because the Ebon Hawk's in such a state. Most of the crew are dead or dying. The only two living inhabitants on the Ebon Hawk, or the two conscious inhabitants on the Ebon Hawk, are the two droids. So let's travel to Paragus 2 and see what that brings. I'm sure things will massively improve once we get there.
The sensors show the door to the storage compartment is being sliced. There is someone, or something, else alive on the Ebon Hawk.
Ooh, could it be? Could that be HK-47, I wonder? Oh, you've had a bit of a makeover since I last saw you, HK. Whoa, whoa, that's uncalled for. What did we do? We haven't done anything.
Awaken.
Okay, so we have finally regained consciousness, but where are we? Why are we here? And why am I the only person who appears to be alive right now? Find out in the next part of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.